All right, everybody. Welcome to the Everyday Alpha podcast. It's Christian here. My counterpart Ryan is not available today, which is okay. He and I are going to be hooking up again this coming Wednesday. We got a great guest for Wednesday. I think you guys are all going to love that. A lot of fun, a lot of hilarity with our guest on Wednesday. But today, when he comes on board, this is Gabriel. Gabriel's a gentleman that I met a couple of years ago. We've been in close contact with each other. Business owner, entrepreneur, father, and he's definitely going to. Gabriel's going to share some stories with us about his life, some adversity. He and I are just going to kind of shoot it here for a little bit. Gabriel, thanks for joining us, my friend. This is the Everyday Alpha podcast.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
I'm
you like
excited to be here.
yeah. So I was just saying, you and I met a couple of years ago. We've been kind of in touch quite a bit in the last, I'd say, 6 months or so.
Hmm.
Um, and really, we both share kind of a similar bond. We were both service members. My counterpart, Ryan, who does this podcast with me, he was a combat controller in the Air Force. So, there's another Air Force guy, Ryan. Here's Gabriel, another Air Force guy. So why don't you just give us a little rundown, like, who you are, talk about maybe just a smidge of your service, maybe tell a story about that, and then let's talk about being an entrepreneur. Let's talk about the challenges of, being in business and successes and failures and how you overcome that. Let's go down that road. What do you say?
That sounds great. That sounds great. Well, I'm a service member. I graduated from Lackman in 2001. So got out of basic.
Yeah.
Um, immediately went over to my A school in Biloxi, Mississippi. And then from there, I went to PJ school, got selected from RASP in the Army.
Hmm.
And next thing I knew, I was in Iraq.
Okay. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. So it's kind of an interesting story. But before I got into the service, I started looking at investments because
Okay.
I'd gotten a bonus, right? And I mean, that's when you're really starting a business, when you want to be an entrepreneur, the first thing that most people worry about is capital. Where am I going to get it? When I get it, do I have enough? And then how do I make that capital work for me?
Yeah.
And that's like, that's huge. Understanding what, I mean, because I've seen people blow through $1 million in a couple months, and I've seen people take $100,000 and change their whole world.
Yeah. Just
So,
be
so
guys smart about it, right?
yeah, planning. It's all come down to planning,
Yeah. What do they say?
right?
Plan to fail or fail to plan? Fail to
If you
plan,
fail
plan
to
to
plan,
fail.
you plan to fail. Yeah.
That's right.
No. I am a Princeton graduate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, master's from Princeton. I have quite a bit of training over the years. So I feel like I'm a little jack of all trades for sure.
Yeah. Tell us a little more. I understand that. Are you a pilot?
I'm a helicopter pilot. I am. I do the flight for life. That's all I do. I love to be able to like fly around. I think I need my very own helicopter. I do own half of a helicopter with my brother.
Yeah.
So
Let's go fly your helicopter one day.
let's do it. That
Just
sounds fun.
you take it off and then I'll take it from there. I know how to do it.
Let's go. Oh yeah, it's actually a little bit more difficult. Well, with it's a little bit more automated now with balances, gyroscopes, stuff like that.
Come on. I went to South Dakota this last October for my anniversary. We
Yeah,
got in a helicopter. The pilot was an ex-Marine. So if an
yeah.
ex-enlisted Marine can fly a helicopter, I can fly a helicopter.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that you can do it for sure. I have no doubt.
Landing, different.
Oh yeah, we actually just built a helicopter pad in the backyard, so it's
Oh,
all
that's
ready
fun.
ready to go.
Cool. All right. Well, keep going. This is good. This is good.
Yeah. So coming into like business adversity, right?
Yeah.
So business adversity, I mean, a business plan. You definitely want to start with a good business plan.
Yeah, but talk about that because I know a lot of people who will say, okay, well, I went on ChatGTP and I wrote a business plan, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so now I wrote this business plan, and the AI spit it out, and
Right.
okay, now I'm good to go. Okay, ChatGTP told me that I need capital.
Okay.
How do I raise capital? Where do I get it? And then who cares if you have a business plan if you don't have an idea and if you don't know how to operationalize, conceptualize? So, I mean, tell me about the first time you started your business. Well, you got a couple of businesses, don't you?
I do. I have quite a few actually. I'm a little bit of an entrepreneur where a serial entrepreneur now at this point. Um, but my first business was actually a fail, but it turned around into success.
Okay.
So my first business was in '97, and it was a cell phone accessory business.
All right. When cell
And
phones were just coming out.
oh yeah, and I used my I was a depper.
A what?
So a depper. Are you not familiar with the depper program?
Oh, you mean the delayed entry program? You mean that?
There you go, man. Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
depper. Yeah,
Right.
so I signed up for the military before I got in. I scored a 96 on my ASFAB.
Holy
Um,
smokes.
yeah, I was in college already, so I was moving down the route. And they said because I scored so high in the ASFAB, you remember back in the 90s, an $80,000 sign-in bonus.
No, 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 no. I joined in 92. We didn't have that then.
Oh yeah, right then
Clinton
we
Clinton was not giving that to anybody.
yeah, there was a big sign-in bonus. So they gave that was my startup capital. So it was
Oh,
$40,000, right? So that was my first startup capital, $40,000.
wait.
Because they give
I
you the
thought
first 40 grand and then
got it.
the extra 40 grand integrated into your pay cycle.
Gotcha.
So that $40,000, I did have some savings that I had saved up for like a nice car, maybe put it down on a house. So I did have a little bit of more money, but
Hmm.
40,000 is what I was ready to invest, and everything else was just keeping me alive.
And so what were you investing in?
Oh my god, cell phone chargers. That's
Okay.
it.
So
So
this is 97, right?
right.
So this was the Matrix. This is the Nokia phone that Neo had,
So
right?
so
That
this
popped
was
open.
actually a little bit. It was in Nokia, but that's when all the that's when T-Mobile wasn't out yet, so it was Voice Stream at the time,
Okay.
and I was just a kid. I wasn't 18 yet, so I was just a kid trying to figure this all out.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at these cell phone chargers. My friend kind of got me into this, and it sounded like a scam, right? Because he's pulling these cell phone chargers. And do you remember how much cell phone chargers were back then?
No, because I didn't have one. Couldn't
Uh,
afford one.
they're So a car charger was 19.99, and
Oh wow.
or no, I'm sorry, it's reversed. The car charger was 27.99,
Okay.
and the regular house charger was 19.99 or twenty
Yeah,
four
but
ninety.
yeah. Okay. All right.
Right, right. We got them for about 70 cents.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, we got them for 70 cents.
From
Right.
China?
Actually, I'm not sure where he got them from. I know it was somewhere out east.
Okay.
I want to say it was India.
Well, east. Okay, that's pretty east south. Sure. Keep
Yeah.
going.
So I had a buddy, and he was like, if you pay 40,000, I'll pay the other 40,000, and we'll be partners on this, and we're gonna open up a kiosk in the Palisades Mall. So the
Yeah.
Palisades Mall is in Nyack, New York,
Okay.
and that was the thing, right? So I was like, okay, all right, let's do it.
Did you have
Um,
your members only jacket on?
oh no, I didn't. I wasn't that cool. I wasn't that cool. I used to rock my Tommy Hilfiger jacket.
Well, there it is right there.
Yeah, there you
There
go.
it is right there.
Um, so week one came, and when I said a lot of chargers, $80,000
That's
of
70 cents. That's a lot of chargers.
yeah, it's a lot of chargers.
Uh-huh.
Now we had. Do you remember how many cell phone chargers there were back then? It's not like now where there's a USB Lightning and a USB C, and that's it. You know what I mean?
No, were there a bunch? Were there a bunch?
We had over 100 different kinds of chargers.
There was that many back then?
Well, because the Nokia 501c3, the Nokia 8101. That like all these Nokias had separate chargers. The Samsungs had separate chargers. The Kyoceras that was popular back then. The
Yeah.
Motorola, um,
Motorola.
and the
Blackberry
Motorola's
was
back then were more.
Blackberries was BlackBerry around yet?
They had a BlackBerry. I think we had the it was like the original BlackBerry. So it was like
Remember the
purple.
remember the Palm Pilot? Were you selling for the Palm Pilot too?
Oh, we had one for the Palm Pilot. We had one for like I don't think the Sidekick was out yet, but I think it was coming out.
Uh-huh.
But we had a lot of different phone chargers.
My gosh, memory lane. What about like those Garmin? Remember those Garmin? Like they were about this big, and you could GPS around and you could plug them
Oh
into your
yeah.
cigarette lighter.
Oh yeah.
You had those
I used
too.
to suction cup it right to my
Yeah,
right
to your
underneath
window.
my window. Yeah, right underneath
This
my window.
Garmin's amazing, but I can't see anything while I'm driving.
You know how many tickets I got in New York because they were like, "That's illegal. You can't do that." Now their car just comes with it. You know what I mean?
That's right. It's amazing
Yeah.
what technology's done.
Oh, it's crazy. So month one was amazing. We made I want to say we made $15,000 month
Mhm.
one, which was great because we were going through not. It looks like we hadn't even touched our product yet, and we
Yeah.
already paid quite a bit of money. Yeah,
Paid your
more.
rent at the kiosk at the mall.
Oh,
Your
dude,
stupid little golf shirts you were wearing that says "We're awesome," right?
the kiosk rent back then was $1,200.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was $1,200.
Imagine what it is today.
Oh man, yeah, I know what it is. In 2011, when when I rented a kiosk at the Park Meadows Mall, it was $12,000. So, going through those chargers, I think it was on the third month. Now, remember, I don't think I got into this. So, my business partner told me when we went to go pay for these chargers to get them all, he was like, "Hey, I'm actually a little short because I'm waiting for a settlement because I got into a car accident. So
Mhm.
I'll pay you this money by the end of the month. Just front me my 40,000." So that completely ran me dry.
Wow. Okay.
But he didn't tell me till last minute. But I
Yeah.
was already sold on the idea and I liked it. And I knew that we could sell a lot because we went down to other malls and different floors, and our kiosk was in a prime location. So I thought it was the best option, right?
Yeah.
Um, month two, we broke a record. We got 25,000. I was like, man, I think we almost made our money back, right? I didn't see any of those profits. So he took those profits, right? And he said, we're going to invest in some different avenues. And that's all I heard. And then next thing I hadn't heard from him for like a couple weeks. Now, remember, this is like summer vacation for me because I'm just a kid. I'm doing college. I'm trying to figure everything out, right?
You're depping it.
Yeah, I'm depping it, right? And it's wild because I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm in the mall from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. by myself selling car chargers to these people. And month three was great, right? Come to find out, on month four, new cell phones came out, right? And everyone got the new phones and this and that. It was like a big deal. The analog phones came out, just new color screens and all this.
Yeah.
None of our chargers fit anything anymore.
Oh no.
I know, right?
How are you supposed to know this? What kind of homework should you've done, or did you even think about that? Or in
So
hindsight,
there wasn't really the internet very actual back in that time. So we're
right?
talking about like early 98, late 97,
Yeah, that
right?
was back when it wasn't Al Gore writing it at the time. Wasn't he writing it down at the time? How to figure out how to do the internet?
I have no idea. Do you know how people sold cell phones back then? They would take
No.
your so in New York, in a car parking in the parking lot at the malls, some random stranger would come up and say, "Hey, do you want to buy a cell phone?" You would give them all your information. They would hand you a box out of their trunk, their carved trunk, and in 3 to 6 days, it would turn on and maybe start working.
That's
But
fantastic.
they would take $300-400 from you, You would give them your social security card, your social security number, copy your driver's license, basically everything they needed to steal your identity.
Yeah,
And
but
then,
if you think about it today, if you go to the T-Mobile store and you got to upgrade your phone,
yeah.
you spend 6 hours at the freaking T-Mobile store waiting
Yeah,
to upstairs. Nothing's
yeah.
changed. You
Oh,
still burn
yeah.
it through a full day.
Well, the only reason I know the process is I ended up doing this in the long run,
Okay.
doing that specific thing. But so the cell phone deal went bad. The cell phone charger deal went bad pretty quick.
So you lost
I
all your money.
I did, but I didn't. I made out like a bandit. So what I ended up doing was I reached out to I hadn't heard from my friend. He wasn't answering my phone calls. Every time I called, he wasn't home because that's how we called back then. We used to call each other's
Right.
house. Yeah.
Right.
He wasn't home. So his mom picked up at some point and said, "Oh, he's not here." And I was like, "Well, where is he?" "Well, he got his settlement a couple months ago. So he hasn't been home. He's been spending money and doing this and doing that." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's crazy because he owes me a little bit of money."
Yeah.
He
40
hasn't paid
grand.
me. He's supposed to be working the mall. We were supposed to be doing this 50-50, but he hasn't come in. So she's like, "Well, I'll tell him to give you a call." He doesn't call. I close down and I go to his house and I meet him there. Surprise, he's there. I say, "Hey, I heard you got the money. We haven't made any sales this week because nobody has these old cell phones anymore." And he goes, "Yeah, I heard about that, and I was a little worried what you'd say." And I was like, "Well, I mean, it's fine. We made like half of our money back. So I mean, if you give me what you have, we can figure out maybe we can revamp or buy something else because we're in a year and a half lease left on this at the mall." And he goes, "Well, I'm not gonna. I don't feel like this is a good investment. I'm not gonna invest in this." I was like, "What do you mean? You
Is he
borrowed
older?
the money to invest. We already invested in this." He goes, "I'm not gonna invest in a business like that."
Was he older than you or the same age?
He was older than me, so
Oh,
he took advantage.
yeah.
He was older, but I was definitely smarter. So what I did, I ended up I ended up calling some friends of mine, and I thought to myself, like, man, who would have these old cell phones, right? Um, I ended up calling a buddy of mine. He actually lived in Alpine, New Jersey, and he was coming down talking about like the old phones he had at home, and he goes, "Yeah, we always have the old stuff." So he lived out in Iran, but he was Persian. You know how that goes.
Mm,
But he
all
was
too well.
oh yeah. So he lived like three doors down from me. And he was like, he had a lot of money. I think he owned a big construction company and he had quite a few businesses. And when I told him I had all these chargers, I said, "Hey, what kind of cell phones they use in Iran?" He goes, "I don't know. I know it's analog," because we had just moved to digital.
Okay.
I was like, "Do you think anybody would be interested in a bunch of cell phone chargers?" He goes, "I don't know. I'll call a couple of my cousins and see." Um, so I talked to the mall. The mall was super nice, and they said, "Hey, we'll let you out of your lease if you pay 2 months."
Yeah, that's fair.
That was more than fair because we signed up for 2 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I thought it was great. So I told them that I paid the 2 months and I didn't go back in there, and they kept it vacant for a little while, right? I
But you had all
called,
this inventory.
huh?
But you had all the inventory, didn't you?
I had all this inventory in basically a giant truck bed, like a semi truck bed that was
Yeah.
parked in front of my grandma's house.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and the rental on the truck bed was $300 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know what I was going to do with it, and I was like, I shot a couple shots out, and I had no idea where it was going to go. That guy, his name was Masheki, and Masheki called me up within 60 days because it was right before that my lease was ending for the mall, right? And he said, "Hey, I got you a buyer, right? He wants to negotiate. Can I negotiate for you? Because I know he's like, I'm a good negotiator, and this is my cousin. I was like, yeah, I'd like to make some money on this. And he's like, all right. He goes, yeah, that sounds good. Well, how much do you sell these chargers for? And I was like, man, we sell them for, $29, this and that. I was kind of breaking everything down for him and whatnot. He got me about, oh God, he got me $3 a charger plus
Extra
shipping.
above?
No, including, right? But I ended up getting a check for like, oh man, it wasn't quite 700 grand. It was like I think it was like 450 or four it was about $400,000.
Wait, so he bought all of your inventory
The guy
at
bought
your
all the inventory and then
at
had it shipped
list
out there.
price plus some extra on top.
No. He didn't buy it for full price.
Oh wait, but that's right. You were only in him for 70 cents, and so he bought him for like 350. Okay, I'm coming back
Yeah,
around.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I ended up making about $400,000, right?
Yeah.
Um, After costs and everything like that. And then I was like, oh man, maybe I should start selling cell phones.
Okay.
So I reopened the kiosk selling cell phones for VoiceStream. I sold VoiceStream, Singular, and Sprint. Or not Sprint, I'm sorry, Nextel.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I'm using my older brother is the person who is on like the business license and this and this. And he's a gem. He's great. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't quite 18 yet.
Ah, so
Right.
you're doing all this before you went into the service.
Correct. This is all before. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to fit in life. I'm going through college courses talking about all these different things with students and what they're doing to make tuition and a whole bunch of nonsense, right? Everybody
Yeah.
had a gig. It's New York, so everybody's got like 6 or 7 jobs. And I was just trying to find my place.
Were you on Long Island or where were you?
I was in Brooklyn, but where we lived was in New Jersey. So we lived
Okay.
right outside Nyack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brooklyn. What a good spot.
Oh man, yeah, it was a little wild.
Super,
Um,
super gentrified now, but it's a good spot.
oh yeah, it's a completely different city.
Yeah.
It really is. Um, but I took that money, I invested in cell phones. I thought I was going to have to get like, what do you call them? Like POP and all these like things. I applied with the mobile carrier and a, oh, what was it called back then? It was called a authorized dealer rep came out, right?
Okay.
And took measurements of all my signage, stuff that I had like gone to Kinko's and like we sell cell phones, real janky stuff, right? And they came out and they made it look so professional. They did such a good job. And next thing you know, we're selling cell phones out of there.
And
So
it's your business, right?
my business, right?
So
So
what happened to the what
this
was his name?
this is where it gets great. This is where it gets great.
Okay. All right.
So he comes out of nowhere, out of the woodworks, right? And he goes, "Hey man, I talked to your sister, right? And it sounds like we made a killing on those car chargers. We made a
Yeah.
killing. Yeah.
Right.
Sounds like we made a killing on those car chargers, right? So I was like, no, man, you didn't invest anything. In fact, you took $25,000 of the money, the profits that I made on my investment, and you did it, right? So I mean, I don't know what you want, but nothing here is yours.
Right.
And that's kind of where I went with that. And I thought that was done and over because he like kind of stormed off, and he had gotten a
Wait,
settlement.
wait, he stormed off. He was pissed off thinking that was his?
Yeah, exactly. He thought all the money that I'd made, half of it was his. Now, this after he told me off and told me he wasn't going to invest.
Right.
Right,
At his house, at his mom's house.
right. He had gotten $140,000 in the settlement, right?
Oh wow.
Plus the $25,000 that he got, and he spent it all within 4 months.
On hookers and blow? What did he spend it
Who
on?
knows? Who knows? I have no idea. I know his car still looked like crap, and I know that he still lived at home with his mom. So I'm guessing I'm guessing a couple fun nights, a couple crazy
Yeah.
weekends,
Just
and
living
a
large in New
lot
York
of
City.
booze. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. A lot of stuff. But oh man, I think it was like 2 months later. I was served with paperwork. He tried to take me to court. Yeah. So yeah, I did have my day in court.
You
Um,
did.
I did have my day in court. The judge ruled it was a hearing. They ruled that not only did he not own a piece of that business, but he also had to pay me $25,000 in restitution. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a win. Yeah, that was a win, and I didn't even think that was a possibility because that wasn't the case.
Hey, you could have folded up shop. You could have taken your ball and gone home. You could have
Yeah,
whined about it and joined like the Navy or something stupid like that. And then,
I actually like the Navy. Yeah,
no,
no.
yeah,
But it's kind of like I think that there was many opportunity for me just to give up
yeah.
because I didn't lose all my money. Remember, I still had a little bit of money. We had made a few dollars, right? And I still had just a little bit left. And I could have just went home, but I was trying to do it the right way. I didn't want to mess up my credit because I was young, and my brother put a lot of stuff down on his credit, and he co-signed on a lot of stuff for me, and I didn't want to mess with his stuff either. So I wanted to
Okay.
do it the right way.
So now I have to ask this question
Go
because
ahead.
I think this is an important question. Here you are at 17, 18 years old, right?
Right.
For some reason at 17, 18 years old, and I know that youth in New York are savvy. I mean, there's just something about that culture. Everybody, like you said, everybody's savvy. Everybody's got one or two, things going on, side hustles, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Who taught you this? Who taught you this perseverance? Who taught you this level of knowledge and responsibility? Where'd you learn that? Because kids these days they don't think like this. So where'd you learn that? I mean, where'd that come from?
My grandfather was in the Navy, and
There it is right there.
there
And
you
the
go.
show's over. The
Yeah,
Navy.
yeah.
Everybody, I was in the Navy. Show's over. No, I'm just kidding. Keep going.
He was a gunner, and he was in World War II, and he really was the one who raised us. And I don't think there was a time he had one of those voices that just sounded like thunder.
Mm-hmm.
And when he spoke, he had 6 kids on his own, and he was taking care of me, my brother, my sister, everybody, right? And
Yeah.
he was a great guy. He taught history. He was a history teacher. I've never seen anybody, not his kids, not my brothers, my sisters. I've never seen anybody, not just not back talk. I've never seen anybody question him on anything that he asked them to do.
So it's just straightforward discipline.
Very
This is the way.
straightforward.
This is the way it is.
Yeah. Hey, I need you to do this. That was it. But if you asked him for something, like if you asked him for anything, hey, I remember when my friends were like getting new cars and stuff like that, and he was like, I was like, beating around the bush, being a little baby about it. Like, oh, my friends are getting new cars. I was talking about it at the table and this and that to like my brother, waiting for somebody to chime in on something, right? And I remember one of my uncles pulled me aside and he goes, "You realize, like, Grandpa's very straightforward. If you want something from him, because he could see what I was doing, and I was very like, I was a kid. I didn't know, I didn't understand, right?"
Yeah.
He was like, just if you want something from him, it's best to just ask. Worst he can say is no. But he goes, I've asked him for things in the past, and I've never had him not say yes. And I was like, seriously? So I went up to him and I was like, hey, my friends are getting new cars, right? And I kind of I was kind of looking at a car. And he goes, do you have a car picked out? And I was like, well, no. And he goes, well, do you know how you're going to pay for gas and insurance? And I was like, well, no. Um, do you have, and this was before I had any kind of income coming in. He
Sure.
was like, do you have a source of income? He goes, well, not yet. Um, no, I don't. He goes, well, what do you want from me? And I was like, well, if I get a car, then I can get a job. And he goes, well, I don't think that's the way that works because I had a I had a job before I had a car. Your brother had a job before he had a car. So that I don't think that's the way that works. Why don't you come back and ask me when you have all your stuff lined up, and I'll say yes. But I make sure you're coming with everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and so I found out a way to get some income. And my solution was, I was going to college. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do the DEPRA program. You know what, I
Got it.
can sign up. I can learn a trade, military, do this. I could, and this was before 9/11, so like it was, we were at a point of peace. so I was
Relative
like,
piece. Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, all right, sweet. Um, so it was a decision that I made. But when I asked him, I was like, you know what? What kind of car did I want? I was a kid. I wanted a Porsche, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, I want a Porsche. I want, this is how much the insurance is. Do you know how much the insurance is on a Porsche for a child?
Well, I mean, today, I mean, you can't, nobody can afford it.
It was $700 a month.
Even back then?
That's how much it was back then.
Holy buckets.
$700 a month.
Yeah.
So he was like, all right, well, this and that. I told him what car I wanted. I told him how I was going to pay for the insurance, right? There was one thing he didn't ask me. Did you notice?
How are you going to pay for it?
How am I going to pay for the car, right?
Yeah. Yeah. How are you going to pay for it?
He bought the car.
We bought it for you.
He did. He bought me the car. He said he gave me the car. He told me he was proud of me that I made the right decision. He liked that I went to the service. He gave me a little shit that I wasn't the Navy. But yeah, but he was proud that I made a decision and that I because when we went to the dealership, I went in there thinking, oh, I have enough for the insurance. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. How am I going to pay for the vehicle?
This is a
I'm gonna
Porsche.
Right. I didn't understand financing at that point, so I didn't know how much I was going to pay a month. I was like, it's X amount. How much is that a month? $100, 200? I had no clue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he ended up buying it, and it was awesome. In fact, I think we ended up leaving there with 3 cars that day. He bought my grandmother a new car. He bought himself a new car. And he bought me a car.
So who's just Porsche buying?
They weren't all Porsches, but yeah,
Oh, okay.
but
Got it.
yeah, yeah. He got my grandmother the car she wanted, which was
Yeah.
very eco. Oh man, it was a green. I don't know who made it. It was a green station wagon looking thing, but it was really cool, and she liked it. She thought it was so fancy. He got himself a. Oh man, it was a used. Oh, It looked like a Bentley, but it wasn't. It was like a used Rolls Royce,
Hmm.
but it was very classy looking. It looked like a Bentley, and it still had the old like Bentley kind
Yeah.
of logo. Yeah, yeah, it was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, great man, great man. But he made sure I had a plan before I like jumped in too deep. So I
Yeah.
can I can attest that a lot of the success that I have is by planning and making sure that everything lines up before I jump in. Now,
So
go ahead.
do me this favor. So now I understand you're looking at potentially another new venture.
Uh-huh.
Um, Give me the yellow highlights of that and what you kind of think is going on there.
Oh man, you're talking about the clinic.
I'm talking about, yeah, the clinic you're looking at
Oh man.
joining or being a part of.
So this is the medical man cave.
Okay.
It has a lot of potential, and I really enjoy like where it sits right now is perfect, and it's really, oh man, you ever so when you walk in, right, you have this feeling of being in like man, I hate to say it, like your cool older brother's room when you were a kid. You know what I mean? You walk in and there's like cool posters on the wall. Everything's like wood trimmed with like liquor bottles, and like it's very nice. It's very classy. That's what I feel
Okay.
like. Old Sinatra's office or something like that. You know what I mean?
What is it about what they do there is floating your boat?
Oh man, they just have a plethora of different procedures, and I mean hormone control, peptides, exosomes for like hair loss. They have MEs just in case you're not feeling as I guess confident in the bedroom. They have
What's ME?
male enhancement.
What is that?
So what they do, right? They increase the size of your penis, right?
Okay. All right.
By making injections, a proprietary based injection that creates collagen around the shaft and the head of the penis.
Okay.
So it's I haven't had this myself, but I'm open to it. It sounds
Yeah.
fun.
There you go. Well, that
Right?
sounds exciting. So where are you in the process with this?
So right now we're in the funding process.
Okay.
We're in the underwriting process. So we're right there in the preliminaries. Um, Everything's good. I'm learning. I'm trying to be hands-on, proactive. I want to learn all the procedures, especially before we start adding new ones. So
Yeah.
that's the goal. I want to be the master at all, right? Which
Right.
which is hard. You have to be really good at a lot of things, right? We can be super good at a few things, right? And kind of dabble in everything else. But if we get really good at like 4 or 5 major things, and all right, if I need this, this is where I'm going because they're the best. And
Yeah.
that's really where we're going to make the benchmark on it.
You know,
Uh,
you've probably heard this before, but it's time and country. I call it the tick, the time and
mhm.
country, and that can be, that's a military term, right? Oh, I've had time and country in Vietnam or time and country in Afghanistan or Iraq, right? But time and country in your job or time and country at what you're talking about, what you're doing. You've heard the 10,000 hours analogy, right?
Well,
You know,
yeah, it's 10,000 hours and you can master anything. I always
correct.
tell people to get really good at something, 18 minutes a day for 90 days.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, 18 minutes a day for 90 days, right? Will make you
18 minutes
really good at something.
a day for 90 days. I like that. I'm writing that one down.
Oh, yeah. And when you start that, right? Anything. You want to learn to play an instrument, you want to learn how to sing, you want to learn how to type. 18 minutes,
Yeah,
90 days, because that's when you'll not only see results, you're going to notice the change in how other people watch you do it. I
sure.
remember when I was younger and I wrote an email to my professor, and he 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 told everyone, hey, if you have any issues with the tests or this or any of these exams, just write me an email. He didn't reply to my email, right? And I was like, man, the exam's due tomorrow. I'm asking for more clarity, and he's not responding back to me. So I went to go talk to him, and he was our department head for engineering. He's Professor Cunningham at Princeton. And I walked up to him, and I was like, hey, this is a really big exam. I want to make sure I do really good. I just want a couple clarifications. I don't remember what I wanted clarification on, actually, but I remember what he said. So I walked into his office, and he saw me right in, right? And he goes, I was actually expecting you to come in. I thought you would be here earlier this week, though. And I was
Okay.
like, really? I missed the email. He goes, I did too. I told you to send me an email if you had any questions and everything. So I said, if you didn't see my email, why would you expect me? And he goes, oh no, I saw your email, but I didn't take it seriously because it was so poorly put together.
Ooh,
Yeah, and I was like, man. So I
devastating.
I really was. It kind of got me because I was like, you know, it, I write an email like I used to write an email like I wrote a letter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
shorthand,
Dear
go
dear
through.
professor.
Yeah, something very lax, right?
It's like writing to Santa Claus.
Yeah, exactly. And
Hmm.
it was, and I wrote that to my professor, the director of engineering at Princeton, and he didn't think I was serious. He said he looked at it, didn't bother reading it, and just kind of threw it aside. So when he told me that, and he was like, you're coming for an engineering degree, right? Engineer and plan a better email, then send it to me.
Yeah.
So I sat there and I thought about it, right? And I was like, well, shit. I started asking my college buddies, my roommate. I was kind of looking at their emails and how they were structured, and I was like, they looked all right. They were definitely better than mine, right? But I went back to my grandfather and I was like, hey, when you write a letter, he doesn't send emails, but I was like, when you write a letter, like, what do you do? He's like, well, I do an introductory, like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Tell a little bit about like what we're talking about, subject, this and that. And then the body of the email, like, why am I looking at this email? Why is this important for me to read? And then who it's from and blah, 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 sincerely, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just thought about it and I was like, man, he had some good points and I structured a better email. But I remember that time when I resent him that email, he was like, this is what I was looking for. Like, this is what I was looking for. It was
Yeah,
much better.
but you got that positive feedback from him.
I did. And I think that since then, I took an email writing class and I took a whole bunch of like resume classes and cover letter classes, anything to make my emails look more professional, right? And I think I've definitely upped the game for sure. Because now I have people reaching out to me like, hey, can you read over this email? What do
Yeah,
you think? Yeah, yeah.
that's
And they're like,
fantastic.
your emails are so good. And I was like, I saw this meme the other day, and it was like the strongest was once the weakest. The master was once the beginner.
Yeah.
The Yeah, and it kind of went through all these different terms of people who have like achieved this greatness, and they always started with like the most adversity.
Yeah, and being humble.
Oh yeah, I'm the most humble. I'm humble. I'm humble AF.
Humble AF.
Oh yeah.
That's your
Ask
call
anybody;
sign.
they'll tell you how humble I am.
Humble AF. Come in, humble AF.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually a running joke with me and my sister. I actually have a clothing line called Humble AF.
No, you do not.
I do have shirts upstairs.
Yeah, that's
Or my
fantastic.
yeah, it says Humble AF.
That's
It's
great. So I want you to tell the story about one of your other businesses. Um, I think you know which one I'm talking about. Your funeral homes.
oh man, funeral homes. Yeah, so I only have one.
Okay.
I
I
only
thought you had a bunch. I thought you had a bunch of them.
no. I have one funeral home. The funeral that was actually a kind of a it was a loan turned into an investment.
All right.
They were looking for a loan for $350,000 for a piece of equipment called a retor.
A
So
what?
a retor,
Okay.
a retor is a giant oven that does cremations. So you'd be surprised. That's where these guys make their all their money, right? And asking for this investment or this loan, I was like, man, what's when do you need it by? Well, we need it right now. I was like, well, how
Well, they
quick?
got they got a pile of bodies they got to
Oh, you
dispose
have
of.
no idea, man. No, it's not just that. So they had a pile of paper, right? Phone calls of saying, hey, I need this body cremated,
Uh-huh.
and they're sending them to other funeral homes because they can't do it.
The bodies or the paper?
The bodies.
Okay.
So they were losing about 50 grand a week.
Oh man.
Exactly. That's where it gets crazy. If you're losing out on 50 grand a week, and that's not a lot, a cremation is between $5,000 and $7,000, right? That's 10 people a week.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the profit on that?
Oh, see, we're I can't really get into the profit on that just because I know it would cause like a wave of like hysteria.
Fair enough.
But
Fair enough.
it's pretty good.
It's
It
good
is.
profit.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good profit.
It's
Yeah,
profitable to cremate dead bodies.
it
Fair enough.
is profitable to cremate dead bodies. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it's really good. I mean, the initial investment's pretty wild, and it has to be. It's regulated, so we have this giant temperature gauge, and that temperature gauge brings out this readout of where the temperature is at all times. So it's wild. If I put a body in there that's 145 pounds, right? It will hit a certain temperature based on that person, right? Now, if I add 20 more pounds of something else, if I throw the fucking ham in there or the turkey, right? It's going to change that temperature, right? And they'll be able to see that when they
Yeah.
read that out, and they'll have if they see something that's out of the ordinary, they can go back and look at the camera and make sure everything's kosher.
Yeah. It's a law of thermodynamics. You add something else in there,
Exactly. So
lowers the temperature.
regulations are pretty wild.
Yeah.
Because people are like, why don't you just throw 3 bodies in at once? We're not allowed to. You know what I mean?
You don't want to mix the ashes.
Yeah, you don't want to mix the ashes, but there's a lot of, even if they requested it, we're not allowed to.
What about you ever done like a Viking funeral where you kind of just push it out into the water and shoot
And then
the flaming arrow?
I haven't. The most, the craziest funeral we've done was a gold-plated coffin.
Oh, wow.
A gold-plated coffin. It was for somebody who's pretty well known, is famous, and
Cremated, or you just throw the carcass in there?
no, we put him in the cemetery.
Got it.
We had a nice service. A lot of people showed up. The coffin was like $72,000, and it was pretty it was pretty extensive.
So, are you still pretty heavily involved in this? This is like a side hustle.
So a lot of the businesses that I am in right now, what I do is, and this is actually good. I talk to people about this all the time, because how do you find good employees, right? What makes a good employee an employee?
Yeah. A lot of things. Effort, showing up to work.
Ethics, good ethics, right?
Ethics. Yeah, ethics. Morals, which is part of ethics, I guess you could say.
So with these small businesses, I've cracked the code. I have cracked the code, and I will share that with you today in 5
awesome.
minutes.
No, yeah, 5 minutes. Right.
One of those videos, you have to like watch it.
Wait, where's my credit card? Hold on a second. Let me get that out.
Okay. Card in, right?
Here we go.
I have cracked the code on creating value for a supervisor. And think about it. And most people would dive into this. Now, you love your day job, right?
Yes.
Yes, right? Imagine how much more you would love it, right? If your boss said, hey, if you can hit all these numbers this year, right? All these numbers, and you find somebody just as good as you, somebody who's ethical, somebody who shows up, somebody who doesn't have excuses, right? Somebody just like you. If I gave you a small piece of the company and made you an owner, right? So now you're making money when we make money. You're making money on profits, and you have something to pass down. You have equity, and you don't have to invest anything but your time and your good work ethic.
Huge.
You're sold, right?
It's huge, as long as it's actual tangible. I mean, I've been in situations where I've been in companies where they're like, we're going to give you some stock options. And I'm like,
oh, yeah, no.
Okay, but they're not worth anything. Well, but the strike price is X, but it's like, but the company's not worth this. So it's like,
if you're not paying dividends, so that's what I'm talking about. So at the end of the year, when we're playing profits and this guy has 5% and we made $1 million, right? And he's walking away with a chunk of cash, and he's like, man.
Yeah, $50,000.
What am I going to do with this? And I said, you're going to invest this just like we all do, right? So we're all getting our checks. We're all going to go to the banks, and we're going to go to the strip club and spend it all. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. You know what I mean? And that's the name of the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Investing in young girls' college funds. That's where
Yeah.
it goes.
Empowering the good employees is what you're saying.
Exactly. But giving them that equity will change the way they look at life. Because most of these people, right? Then the really hard workers, right? I've noticed this for a long time. The really, really hard workers, the ones who bust their ass and come in 9 to 5 every day, sometimes staying late, just making sure all the work's done. Why do you think they work so hard?
It's because that's who they are. They take pride in their job.
But a lot of them, it's because they have to. They have no other choice. They're working hard because they need to pay their bills. They need to do this. They need to do that because they're living paycheck to paycheck, right? Even though you're paying them well, they have a kid at home and a girlfriend with a broken leg. You need to float, and they're working. They're not complaining, and they're just doing their job. When you offer them something great like that, now I'm not saying that offer this kind of deal to a knucklehead. You know what I mean? Somebody who's like
for sure
complaining and this and that. But the person that you find that is busting their ass and deserve it, I offer it out there all the time and say, hey, I'm willing to give up a percentage that I would normally take home and give to my family and put it in my son's, my kid's mouth.
Yep.
I'm offering this to you because you're doing such a good job.
And here's what you have to do to get it.
Exactly. And the next year, if you want to offer them something else, or they're getting this dividend and that's enough, but like you'll notice a big change in their work ethic, even more, because now they have something they're proud of.
But
They'll
you're right.
tell their friends.
I own a piece of a company.
Exactly.
I got a dividend check last week or last year, and it was for $27,000 or $2,700 or even $270. It doesn't matter. I got a piece of the profit.
Right.
I'm an owner. Yeah, you're not wrong, bro.
And not only that, right? Name something that most people, and let's say he's in his 20s or 30s, right? Name something that most people have in their 20s that's making them money.
Not very many people.
Exactly. That's something that they own. It's an actual asset. That's something they own that's making them money. It's not a car. It's not a house. They're not making invisible equity that's, that you can't really pull out. They're making a hard, cold cash that they're able to pull out and spend whatever the hell they want.
And at any time they want, they could sell that piece of the company.
Exactly. Well, there are guidelines because we don't want just any knucklehead buying a piece of our company,
right? And selling it off, right?
Because we've had that discussion before. I owned a CBD company. Hold on, here it comes, the sneeze. I owned a CBD company in New Mexico and a restaurant, and we wrote it into the contract because my ex wife at the time, she passed away. But she had this idea when we were writing the contract for this equity contract. If they want to sell it, right, we would purchase it back.
Okay.
And the only reason we did that is because
so they could only sell it back to you.
They could only sell it back to me or someone that we thought would be a good asset and value to the company. And those were the guidelines. Yeah. But and the reason why we did that was because we were in New Mexico. There's a lot of knuckleheads out there with a lot of money, and we just don't want anybody on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of where our head was at. So
that's where you have to be, right? If you're going to have a company, you got to make sure you got the right people on the team.
That actually ended up helping us because like when she did want to sell her piece to a friend of hers who was kind of a free spirit. And I was open to it. I was like, you know what? She seems nice. And my wife at the time was like, let's, you know what? Have her work. We'll pay her salary, right? Yeah. We'll just have her work and we'll see if we get along with her. And she got into more fights with customers and more arguments. She didn't understand the culture that we were trying to build there, right? And she was I have no problem with vegans, but she was vegan and we had a restaurant. So when people ordered a steak, she'd be like, give them a look. Well, this is how this works. This is a restaurant. People order whatever they like. Just because you don't like it, you don't make a stink face at it.
Right.
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 This is a business.
Yeah.
So when I told her I didn't want her as part of the team, I didn't even want her in the business anymore. Like we didn't want to do business with her at all. Um, you know, the person wanted to sell her shares to her or half of them. I was
Hmm.
like, you know what? We're going to buy your shares back. That's fine.
Yeah. We'll just buy them
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, you'd be surprised. That's our only bad review.
Well, that's interesting. Well, you know what? You cracking the code, that's a really good share because, there's I've been in industry, medical industry for a long time, and I've always been in this situation to where the company never really wants to give anybody ownership, but they throw
Yeah.
those stock options at you. Oh, well, if you work really hard and we get the company, moving in the right direction, then all of a sudden the stock goes up and your shares, if they're lower than the stock, then you have equity. And it's like, well, no, I don't, because then I have to execute on that. I have to buy
Right.
it. I have to strike at it. And if
Right.
I and if I don't have $100,000 to buy all of them, which you said I have to buy them all, I can't just buy pieces of them, then I
Right.
really don't have anything. I have 100% of nothing is what I've got.
So me and my buddy won a bunch of stocks back in God, what was it, 2015, 2016 with the company that we're working at. And I was trying to break the door into this company that I own now. I own a merchant finance company that does
Yes,
credit
you
card
do.
processing, and that company, we've actually grown it quite large. But when we were first getting into it, and when I was first trying to learn it, because I've been trying to learn this industry since 2011, it's kind of been a long road because there's so many different options and price plans and price points and software, and trying to understand it is a never ending, but it's
Yeah.
very profitable. So I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's definitely worth it. Now going into that, right? That company, oh man, I think I got 50,000 shares one year and I got another 25 the next year. Altogether, I had like 300,000 shares. They said they were worth $5 or $6 a share. So I mean, you
Yeah.
do the math on that. It's quite a bit of money, right?
Yeah, that's some cheddar if it's real.
Oh yeah. They just recently got purchased by Heartland.
Oh wow.
Are you familiar with Heartland?
Heartland Bank, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They
My wife
just
my wife does she does tech, and you could talk to her for hours about Heartland Bank out
yeah,
of Iowa.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, so they just got purchased by Heartland. So they didn't honor any of those shares.
Oh,
Yeah. So we all kind of took a bath on that,
yeah. That's too
but
bad.
oh yeah, they didn't offer us much of anything, honestly. Um, a smile, a handshake, and a sandwich, maybe.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
"Hey, we got one out.
Thanks
Yeah,
very much.
no worries. Oh man, but
Well, this was good. This was really good. We're kind of coming up on our hard stop here at the quarter to the hour.
no,
Um,
no worries.
yeah, no, listen, Gabriel. So I just want to just share a couple things with you. So this is the Everyday Alpha podcast. We talk about stories like this. These are fantastic. This is going to help somebody out. Somebody's going to listen to this and they're going to go, yeah, that's right. Or perseverance, or just listen to your story and listen to, the challenges that you went through from when you were 17 until you got older, you joined the service. Now here you are today, a couple of businesses that you own. It's all about stick to itiveness. It's all about having a plan. It's all about dealing with adversity and rolling with it. So our goal on this podcast is to continue to talk to men, tell stories, give advice. And Ryan and I and Randy, our producer, he's fantastic, came up with the idea that, the Everyday Alpha tea. So we always like to say, come on to the Everyday Alpha podcast and drink the tea with us. If you've heard that analogy, let's drink some tea or read the tea leaves. So you
Yeah,
today came on and you and I drank some tea. I drank some of your tea. We listened to your story, which was a lot of fun. And let's have you back on again. Would you be interested in doing that?
yeah, man. Whenever.
Yeah,
I have fun.
love to. I'd love to hear how this this new venture with the medical clinic turns out for you.
Yeah.
I'm interested in hearing how that goes. That'll be really good, and I'm interested in seeing where that goes. So, thanks for joining the Everyday Alpha. I appreciate you.
All right, man.
All right.